So this week our topic was sexualities and families. For my article review, I had to read two articles by Gary J. Gates. The first one was called Same-Sex Couples in Census 2010, Race and Ethnicity, and the second one was called LGBT Parenting in the United States. Both of the articles gave a lot of really good and interesting information, but they were mostly statistically based and gave a lot of numbers and percentages, but didn't really give a lot of sociological information. So, just to get started, the first one, same-sex couples in Census 2010, Race and Ethnicity. The first point that Gary J. Gates makes is that between the years 2000 and 2010, there was a fast increase of same-sex couple households. They actually increased by 80% compared to different sex coupled households that were unmarried, which increased by 40% from 2000 to 2010, and married different sex couples only increased by 4%, and households in total increased by 11% in the United States from 2000 to 2010. The second point he makes is that same-sex couples are as likely as different sex couples to include racial or ethnic minorities. Based on the ethnicity of the householder, which is the person who fills out the form and says they're the head of the house, different sex unmarried couples and same-sex married couples have about the same percentage of white householders, which is around 81%. Same-sex married couples had slightly higher proportions of African American householders and slightly smaller proportions of Asian householders. Among all racial and ethnic groups, same-sex couples are less likely to raise children than different-sex couples. Same-sex couples and different-sex couples where the householder is a minority are more likely to have children. 1/3 of same-sex couples with a Hispanic householder are raising children compared to 17% of same-sex couples with a non-Hispanic householder. And 1/4 of same-sex couples with an African American or Asian householder have a child. 29% of same-sex couples with a householder who are Native American or Alaskan Native American have a child, and 1/3 of householders of same-sex couples who are Hawaiian or Pacific Islander are raising a child. Gary J. Gates also touches on same-sex couples with children are more likely to include a larger portion of racial and ethnic minorities. 28% of same-sex couples are non-white, and 24% of different-sex married couples are non-white. So there's a 4% difference there. And overall, he said same-sex couples are the most likely to be interracial or interethnic. More than 1 in 5 same-sex couples are interracial or interethnic, as opposed to 18.3% of different-sex unmarried couples and 9.5% of different-sex married couples. So, for a discussion question on this article, I was thinking we could have the question be, why do you think same-sex couples are more likely to be interracial or interethnic? It could be a whole slew of societal reasons. It could be economically based. It could be based on like a shared feeling of being a minority. It could be pretty much anything. So I thought that could be interesting to discuss. So once again, the question is, why do you think same-sex couples are more likely to be interracial or interethnic? And then the second question, or the second article I had to read, was called LGBT Parenting in the United States. This one was based on basically patterns of parenting in LGBT individuals and same-sex households in the United States. 37% of LGBT adults have had a child in their life, according to, once again, census data and surveys. 3 million Americans have had a child, and 6 million American children and adults have an LGBT parent. 37% of LGBT people, according to the 2008-2010 General Social Survey, have had a child. And there was also a similar response from transgender respondents who said it was 38% have had a child in their life. 48% of LGBT women and 20% of LGBT men living alone or with a spouse under the age of 50 are parenting young children. 19% of same-sex households include children under 18. 17% are raising biological children, adopted children, or stepchildren. And they are 2 times more likely to raise kids if they consider themselves to be married. So if they're legally recognized, they're more likely to have children. So I thought those numbers were pretty interesting. They basically give you an idea of, like a general idea of parenting patterns in LGBT identified individuals and same-sex households. Same-sex couples are also much more likely to raise children that aren't considered biologically related. So children who are adopted or foster children or grandchildren or something like that. So in the article, he goes through 5 sections of basically categories of characteristics for LGBT parenting in the United States. The first section is sex. In 2 adult households raising children, 72% are women, LGBT households, compared to non-LGBT households where women make up 55%. Among same-sex households with children under 18, 61% are female couples. The next category was age. LGBT individuals who have children indicate they have their first child earlier than heterosexual couples. The average age for LGBT couples to have their first child is 21, whereas heterosexual couples, the mean age is 23. The median of same-sex parents in the median age of same-sex parents currently is 42 versus 44 for different sex parents. So once again, LGBT parents are statistically a bit younger than heterosexual couples. The next category is race and ethnicity. 41% of non-white women and 20% of non-white men have children under 18 in the home, compared to 23% of white women and 8% of white men. So same-sex households with with a racial or ethnic minority are more likely to have children under the age of 18 in the household. Geographic distribution is the next category. Child rearing in same-sex households are highest in South, Mountain West, and Midwest areas of the United States. And the last category was socioeconomic status. Same-sex couples are actually more likely to be economically disadvantaged. It's a theory that same-sex couples are more likely to live closer to the poverty threshold because they include characteristics. They're more likely to include characteristics associated with economic disadvantage, like they're more likely to be female, they're younger, they have racial and ethnic minorities. Same-sex couples, same-sex adults raising children are 3 times more likely to report household incomes that are near the poverty threshold, or 2 times more likely to report household incomes near the poverty threshold if they're married. Same-sex couples are also less likely to be employed. There's an equal likelihood of same-sex couples and different sex couples to have both partners be employed, but same-sex couples are more likely than different sex couples to have both partners be unemployed. So basically, same-sex couples are more likely to be economically disadvantaged because a lot of the characteristics that go along with being part of a same-sex couple. So the discussion question for this article was: that do you think that there is a reason Do you think that the overall likelihood to have kids it is affected more so by biological means or biological reasons or societal reasons for same-sex couples? Um, Meaning same-sex couples are overall less likely to have children than different sex couples. So do you think it's just based on the fact that it's more difficult for same-sex couples to have children biologically, or do you think it's based on societal reasons like um, lack of um, lack of good partners or lack of social support? Like maybe people don't think that it's a great idea yet or something like that. So that was my second discussion question, and that was my article review for the sexuality section of the sexualities unit of this course. And yeah, thanks.